Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Dress Code Compliance. I used to work as a pharmacist at a Safeway in Arizona. My boss was a walking talking case study in narcissism. Micromanaging, petty, always looking for ways to control everything, especially if it brought someone else a sliver of joy. Now, I love talking to customers, answering questions, helping folks. That's why I got into the job. Naturally, she hated that, because if she couldn't control it, she wanted it gone. She fixated on bizarre little things. Her personal favorite? Making sure we covered the computer keyboards every single night when closing. Not for hygiene, just because. Now, pharmacist jobs were very scarce in that town, so I bit my tongue, played along and followed her endless list of strange rules. Meanwhile, when the regional manager was in town, the two of them would disappear for lunch for hours, aka the gossip games. The best part? Less supervision while they were gone. But when she was there, oh, it was like being under a microscope. She was desperate to find something to criticize. And eventually she found her big moment. I showed up for a shift and she pulled her face like she'd just bitten into a lemon. Then she said, in the most smug voice imaginable, "Your pants aren't black enough." She rolled me up for the shade of my pants. Now, the dress code was simple. Black pants or skirt, black shoes, white coat. No mention of fit, no mention of flair. So I decided to have some fun. That night I went out shopping. Picked up a few pairs of black dickies, 3 sizes too big, grabbed a chain belt from Hot Topic, layered on some delightfully spooky skull jewelry, and found a nice pair of Doc Martens. Topped it off with a crash course in goth makeup, courtesy of my neighbor's kid, midlife goth pharmacist, reporting for duty. She saw me and her jaw nearly hit the floor. But here's the best part. She couldn't do anything. I was 100% within the dress code. And she knew it. Then, because the universe has a beautiful sense of humor, the regional manager showed up that same day. She pulled her usual disappearing act for lunch, clearly trying to figure out if she could spin this into another write-up. She couldn't. But it gets even better. A secret shopper came in while she was gone. I helped him and cracked a joke or two. He laughed. He smiled. I got a Smile Award. A free donut and coffee. Thank you very much. She got sent to Smile School for her dour demeanor. The next story is called Secretary Influence. So, in one of my old jobs, we had 2 ways to make purchases. Either with a company credit card or through this software system called SAP. If you used a credit card, you were supposed to turn in all your receipts at the end of the month with a lovely little expense report. If you ran through SAP, you turned in your receipts as soon as you got them, so our awesome secretary could file them. Simple, right? Enter my boss, who clearly didn't get the memo. Now, I worked a 7 days on, 7 days off schedule. So one week I came back to work and my boss hits me with, "You didn't turn in your receipts immediately." And I'm like, right, because I used a credit card. That means I submit them monthly. She goes very confidently, "No, we always turn in receipts as soon as we get them." I blink. That's only for SAP purchases. She doesn't budge. Okay, whatever. I know I'm right. So I keep doing it the correct way. But then, she brings it up again. And again. 3 times in 6 weeks. Like a broken record, just with more attitude. At one point I even double checked with a coworker, just to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. He backed me up. Yeah, credit card equals end of the month. But clearly my logic wasn't cutting it. So I pulled out the ultimate weapon. Receipts and documentation. I started making copies of each receipt. I turned in the originals immediately, just like the boss wanted. But I also left a little note with them, explaining that I was only doing this because she insisted. Now, our secretary worked at different locations, so I didn't see her very often. But not long after she got my first immediate receipt, she slapped a note right back on it. This should not be turned in. It goes on the expense report. Boom. There it was. Justice. In posted form. So I left another note explaining the situation. That boss was demanding I turn them in early. And then? Magic. The next week I come in. And guess what? My boss, suddenly full of clarity and confidence, tells me, you shouldn't turn in receipts immediately. You need to hold onto them for your expense report. Oh, really? How interesting. Because 6 weeks ago, you were ready to tattoo the opposite rule on my forehead. I smiled, nodded, and never brought it up again. Because the secretary had my back, and she apparently had the kind of influence I could only dream of. The third story is called Following Rules. So, about 14 years ago, I worked at a McDonald's in France. And let me tell you, this place had rules. Lots of them. Like, on the wall in bold letters rules. One of them, every 30 minutes, everyone, including managers, had to wash their hands. Sounds reasonable, right? But guess what? The managers just didn't. They'd skip it like it was optional. So I decided to give them a little reminder. I'd walk up to their office door, knock, and just stand there like, hey, when are you going to wash your hands? And until they did, I wouldn't go back to work. No hands washed, no burgers flipped. Because, hey, this environment is filthy. They started losing their minds. But I wasn't done. See, I took every rule seriously. Like, if cheese had been sitting out too long, straight into the trash. Not my problem anymore. If lettuce was past its time limit, goodbye salad. They'd fish it back out like raccoons in a dumpster. Then came the big one. One day, the freezer broke. And instead of being nice and icy, it was sitting at room temperature. So I did what any by-the-book employee would do. I grabbed the entire box of burger patties, 200, maybe 300 of them, and chucked them into the outside dumpster. Managers freaked out. They tried to grab them back. They tried to go grab them back. I stood my ground like, either send me home or I'm going to sit in the corner and do nothing. I'm not cooking that meat and giving someone food poisoning. Yeah, maybe I overreacted a tiny bit, but honestly, they had it coming. Eventually, the owner of the franchise was like, please, just leave. But nope, I wasn't going anywhere. Because in France, firing someone without a proper reason costs a ton of money. And guess what? I was just following the rules. Their rules. To the letter. It's not my fault they didn't like how it looked in practice. So I stayed, smiled and waited until I found a better job. And they had to deal with the most rule-abiding, cheese-trashing, hand-washing employee they'd ever met. The last story is called Just Asking Questions. So, I work at a very large company, like Fortune 50 level. And as with any megacorp, they sometimes roll out, let's say, confusing new rules. We were told by our manager, who by the way turns out to be the hero here, that there was a new performance metric coming down from the top. Historically, if you hit less than 70% of your quota in a quota carrying role, you risk going on a performance review plan, aka the you are probably getting fired soon list. Anyone who gets PRP'd is basically toast. Fail the plan? Fired. Pass the plan? Still likely first on the layoff list. The worst part? You get replaced by a brand new hire fresh out of college, making half your salary. Now, my team? We are not junior. We are all senior level folks, working with C-suite executives at other Fortune 500s as trusted advisors. We are the pros. The tip of the sales spear. Not exactly entry-level intern material. So, 2 months ago, our manager gets invited to our big in-person strategy seminar. HR's there, senior leadership, all the suits. Day 1, all about how vital our division is to the company's new growth plans. Partners will now drive 85% of revenue. We are counting on you to deliver. Big speech, big energy. Then comes day 2. That's when they drop the bombshell. New rule. Quota-carrying employees must now hit 80% attainment annually, and they are backdating the metric 2 years. Our manager flips into just asking questions mode. So let me get this straight, he says. If someone hit 100% last year, but 79% the year before, they are on a PRP? HR mumbles. Well, yes, that's how it would work. The general manager chimes in. Yes, no exceptions. Everyone must be a top performer. My manager quietly starts packing his stuff. The GM's like, wait, what are you doing? And my boss, bless him, stands up and goes, well, based on your rules, my entire team now qualifies for a PRP. No exceptions, right? So I've gotta go start writing them up and opening requisitions to replace them all. You could hear a pin drop. Then, one by one, all the other managers raise their hands. Yeah, us too. We need to get started on PRPs and open headcounts. Turns out 80% of our division would end up on PRPs. And because the failure rate is so high, 70% would be fired, 10% laid off, and 20% left standing. For the most critical division in the company's growth plan. Great plan, right? And here's where it gets even better. Our boss points out, hey, retention is also part of my performance goals. If I lose my team, I get PRP'd too. And so does my boss. And her boss. All the way up the ladder. The meeting ends in awkward silence, and leadership promises to revisit the policy in a few months. Fast forward to this week. Legal's been poking around. HR's sweating. And guess what? A formal exceptions plan is announced. Now there's a list of 10 to 12 valid exceptions. Anyone qualifying for an exception, PRP timer resets to next January. Turns out, everyone in our division qualifies. What a coincidence. HR originally claimed only 11% would be affected, because they ran worldwide numbers, not department level analysis. Legal also lost it when they found out the metric was being backdated, and it didn't account for things like federally protected leave. So yeah, turns out malicious compliance and asking a few questions can shake up $1 billion company. Gotta love my manager. He didn't go down swinging. He made sure no one had to go down at all. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.